Hello, you are listening to the Gamer Librarian Podcast, the best podcast you can find on this side of the multiverse. I am your host, Adrian, and for this Halloween season, I will be talking about the horror novel House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski and more. Afterwards, be sure to subscribe to be notified when future episodes are released and show your support by liking and leaving a comment. Thank you for joining. All right, we are back on another Friday. It is the third Friday in October. I think we only have about 2 weeks until it's November, 2 months left in the year. That's pretty crazy. But Halloween is right around the corner. It's on a Thursday, which isn't really ideal for a lot of people. But as a kid, we went trick or treating whenever, so like no one really cared what day specifically Halloween fell on, like when you're a child. But nowadays, it's just like it's just like a little fun holiday. And as an adult, I try to find new and fun ways to enjoy in the holiday spirit. And usually that always goes into reading horror novels and all kinds of stuff like that. And for the podcast, I was really excited to try and gear into more holiday oriented stuff, trying to meet things on like specific months or, times of the year. And October is a very easy month because Halloween, of course, the spookiness of, the horror genre or being scared, that kind of stuff that permeates into a lot of media and stuff. And you kind of enjoy that throughout a lot of things, books, video games, movies. And this week is a special week because it's going to feature a book that I have been wanting to go into far more detail ever since I talked about it earlier. When we talked about the podcast, I think episode 10 was like the first time I mentioned the book House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. And just to give like a brief, description of the book itself, it's a big book. I've only ever seen print versions of it with 700 pages, and I'll say it right off the bat, the way you read it is very, intriguing. It's difficult to maybe a lot of people, especially if you're not specifically geared to reading, at least not a lot. I understand people have different like reading abilities, but this one definitely kind of takes the cake in terms of difficulty because there's parts where you have to like flip the pages upside down, and then there's like smaller paragraphs and anecdotes and text and all kinds of stuff just added to it. So it definitely seems like it's a very daunting book to try and get into. So, if anybody has been wanting to get into House of Leaves or has been like, interested or intrigued by the book itself, I would say to just start off like just pick like a format because like they're all fonted to a different degree, every single kind of story that we could call it, I guess, the stories. And besides the type chat, these stories they give very different vibes as you read them, right? So you get a lot of different perspectives and like versions of storytelling. Here, it's basically three stories wrapped in one, and they have a similar motif that they're kind of connected in a faux way. The first story, the Davidson Record, right, which I would say is the basis of House of Leaves, like it's the main story that you could read, in my opinion. This story is the best one in my opinion. It comes off as such a great, entertaining thrill. Like I just have to say it. Like if you're a fan of found footage, any movie like Blair Witch, VHS, House's October Bill, or Cloverfield, any of those found footage type horror movies, this is just the same format, just in book form. You're just reading it, like the way that they describe a lot of the scenes, because the story is told about a man who buys a house for his family, and the house is just a basic idea of it. It's bigger on the inside than the outside, and that's as basic as I get to it. But the man documents it with his family. He has like cameras. He's a famed photojournalist. He's super famous, world renowned, and he documents how he discovers it, how his family starts being intrigued by it, how it affects the daily life of, their family, and how it breaks them apart eventually through his investigation, and how it just permeates through their life and, is catastrophic to them to the ultimate end. It's a horror story in that way, which is awesome in my opinion. And it's told like a found footage story. And better than that, in my opinion, the entire book, House of Leaves, is told like a bunch of, you know, like students or researchers, scholars, people just trying to find more about this man and his house from that, like, that very basis of it, because he records it in like making small films or like photos and like all kinds of stuff. Like there's actual record of it, at least in the book, the way it's told, right? It's fictional. But what I mean is that like there's references to real people within our world, like Stephen King, and just to name one, right? Like Stephen King is like just somebody who is name dropped as somebody. I'm sure there's like maybe some real scientists or people who were like advised or like used in the book. I'm just not going to research it, but Stephen King like at least is referenced, whether or not he did an interview based on the book, which he did talk about with his son during like a previous time. So that's really one of my favorite things about the book is that it feels like an amalgamation of somebody's like research and their collective like interest into finding this secret and like this mystery or secret, because the story is told in such a real way with how the people are brought into the story and how they're affected by the house that is bigger on the inside than the outside. Right, that's where like the fantasy, the mystical kind of aspect of it goes. But in terms of like trying to understand what like fear is, I think this book really encapsulates just like things could make total sense as far as you like study it and like try to understand it, but it'll still be so scary and you'll never understand the cause of it. I think that's like very true with like cosmic stuff like space or like, atoms or like maybe religion to a degree. All that kind of stuff is um, very interesting to me with how like we kind of treat it, with how like we have treated everything over history. But Mark does a great job of making this story feel like it's been experienced and relived and rethought about by, fictional people within the story, but the parts of it that are real, like the reference to Stephen King or some other like real life stuff, just kind of mix our world and into this fictional world that makes it feel like it definitely happened somewhere, and all of it is here in the book. I mean, the version I have is the remastered full color edition, which I believe they put out multiple versions of this book. Whether or not it was like in short pieces online, I believe, and then like printed versions. But with the printed version that I have, the color version, there's like parts in the back featuring like pictures and all kinds of cool, neat stuff, and I feel like if more of that was incorporated into the book, it would have been even better. Truly, truly even better. Like if you had like things that looked truly handwritten instead of just like type-faced print, because there's pictures of like things that were actually handwritten, or like the footage apparently there's like even like some faux footage made for the movie, not the movie, but like the book itself. I'd love to do far more research into, what kind of fun things were made for it. There's even an album made with Mark and his sister called Haunted, which is great. I listened to the whole thing when I just found out that it existed yesterday, and I really liked it. And really, another fun fact is the sister, I think her name is Poe, at least her musician label is Poe, that's what her name is. She did work for Alan Wake 2. Holy shit, that's awesome. I was super shocked to see in the discography of Poe the soundtrack for Alan Wake 2, which is, just awesome that it came full circle to not only a video game, but a spooky video game, which is just a clear sign that I now have to go play the Alan Wake 2 DLC. Like it's just that's just the reason why I now have to go play it is to listen to the soundtracks again, because I mean, that's just a wild connection that I never thought would have happened. So, House of Leaves has a lot of really cool things about it, like just from the outside perspective, but cover to cover, it's a great experience. Like, even if you're not even a reader, I would say if you're just like weird things that are like I think once you start it, it'll really like hook you. In my opinion, you just start after the context and the first page says this is not for you, and it's like an introduction. So the introduction is the second story, right? This is the truant footnotes. The truant footnotes are, like I said before, it's like somebody took the Blair Witch Project and just studied it for like a year and then made all kinds of notes and printed it into a book, right? So the truant notes is like that. He found the Davidson record, right? I won't say too much about the footnotes itself because I think it's wacky and crazy in its own like cosmic horror strange way. I think if you're a fan of H.P. Lovecraft or Edgar Allan Poe or anything like that, the Truant Footnotes is truly where you're going to get like that kind of flavor. So like this is two stories. The Neighbors to Record is more like your found footage, weird study kind of story, and then the Truant Footnotes are the person affected by this film, and he's so engulfed by it, what he's trying to understand through it, it makes him crazy. It warps his mind, and he goes insane. He's the most unreliable narrator to a degree, just like you see in a lot of Poe and Lovecraft stuff, right? So with the truant footnotes, there's even another side story. So like the third story is the Whalestow letters, which I won't say too much about, but they're definitely adding a nice little, like flavor towards the end if you want a little more. It's not necessarily my favorite portion of the book, but it's definitely an aspect of it that's pretty interesting. So it makes the whole trip come full circle with those three stories, and I think the entire package, which encompasses some great compelling stories that are horrific. They're like it's authentically horrific. It feels like it's real. The way that the characters have reacted, at least on page, feel like they're reacting in the film, and that's how I vision it. I vision it like I'm watching a film, like it's something in front of me, like I'm just watching a film. I would love to see a found footage film of this just made anything about it because that'd be awesome. But it's very difficult to put this into a film version. Um, and so it's like suspenseful and thrilling. And then one of the best parts about it is as you're getting into it, you realize that part of it is not only a comedy, it's very funny. It has some very good comedy at times. Mark is a great comedian in terms of having things like blatantly funny. So that way the rest of the story still has that really suspenseful and thrilling kind of ride to it. It's a love story. Part of it is mostly a love story, and you find that for the characters, and I love the characters in them. So like the whole story, I just love it. It's really great. And yeah, anybody who's a fan of found footage horror films would absolutely love this. Anybody who's like into Lovecraft or Poe stuff, I think this would be right up your alley. And then, just anybody who likes reading horror novels, or if you like horror video games or anything like that, you should branch out and try a book. Because sometimes, I'm not the fastest reader. I don't read, at a very great speed, or I don't know every kind of word that I'm looking at. But one of the great feelings that I have, and I feel like this is probably true for a lot of people, and I get a similar feeling when I play video games, but it's not the same feeling. It's like just turning a page and then like seeing what's next always kind of um, pushes me a little more when I like the story. And it's stories that offer a really fun and entertaining mystery to it that really get me like hooked from the beginning. And even if there's characters I don't like, or moments, or scenes or parts of it that I don't like, I still try to, you know, get through it for not just my own sake, but just for the fact that like I started it, I might as well see it through and then find like my own type of opinion on it. And this book is like daunting. I understand like a lot of people would not be into reading something like this. Like there's parts of it where it's like upside down. It's like parts of it where it's crossed out in red and all kinds of stuff. And you can interpret it any kind of way you want. But like at the end of the day, it's just like fictional entertainment. And this kind of stuff during this type of year, House of Leaves is going to be forever one of my favorite horror novels, one of my favorite novels to read during this time of year. Like ever, like absolutely. So it was truly great to read this for like the fourth time and get to talk about it here on the podcast because it's one of my favorite books, and I could read that for the rest of my life and be happy. That would be such a blessing. And yeah, that's basically about it. So like Halloween is still coming up, and I'm gonna try and keep it spooky for the rest of the month, barring some game releases that coming out in the future and all kinds of stuff. Speaking of which, I know Xbox had like a showcase and stuff recently with like their partner stuff, and there was some titles that seemed pretty cool. Some of them we saw previously, so like I'm definitely excited to see how they could deliver that. But I don't know, man, if their flagship games really aren't gonna cut it. Like Halo definitely botched it. I saw an article where Halo dev spoke about having a battle royale mode in Infinite and then it being cut, and it's just like, damn, they were so close. someone had the idea, and then something happened. That's Rip. So he was hoping that Gears of War E-Day really has a really good ticket, a really good shot, because as much as I like Gears of War 4 and 5, a prequel, I don't know. I mean, like the Locusts are cool, and it's kind of just been done. I mean, what could they do? I wonder if they're just going to adapt the Slab book. That's basically as prequelist as you get in terms of the E-Day stuff. I don't think it takes place exactly the same time. I haven't really checked, but E-Day is 15 years before the Gears of War proper series comes out. So like you're just fighting locusts, and everything's gonna be very specifically like set upon an era right after like 100-year war. The Pendulum Wars were very crucial, and you see that kind of early on in some of the cutscenes and Gears, and you get some kind of like notations for it. But like it's really cool if you read the books, because you see like how much that kind of setting is very similar to our world, and it's how petty those small things ended up being in the long run. Like how like the only thing I can compare it to is like Ty, because he's like from the Hawaiian Russian islands or whatever they were during the game. And then there's the Judgment game, where you have, I think, the DLC where you play as Baird and the Russian guy, and you go over like the place being like bombed by the what's it the Hammer of Dawns. And I think it's really cool to have that. I honestly, I would have preferred if they made a Pendulum Wars game, because it could just been like a multiplayer game, and it's just like a red versus blue, like, oh, it's just Gears versus these people, and it could have been like all multiplayer with like a small campaign or missions, very much like what's it, Warhammer 40K too, um the like little missions you could do with like your friends on co-op, which is nice. I like those. So like, co-op as well. Like I remember the co-op being like only two player in 4 and 5, right? And I think in 3 you could have had 4 players at once, which is awesome, and you don't get that a lot anymore. So yeah, I think it's time that we talk about our sponsor, Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink that is made to give you focus with no crash, jitters, or angst like other energy drinks. We also have no maltodextrin fillers and don't use artificial dyes. W contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. If you use the code below, you can get 10% off anything at store, which is drinks, powders, apparel, portable bottles, stickers, and bags. That's if you use the coupon code Gamer Librarian down below at checkout. W is an energy drink powder that is produced in FDA registered and inspected facilities in the United States. Yeah, and I don't know whether I'm gonna start reading next. We're still going through One Piece, right? So they're on Elbaf Island, and they're finding out like there's a dude pretending to be the sun god, and he's like part of the old, I think Roger pirates, if I'm correct. And it's just it's been crazy, So One Piece has been going on. I think it's on a hiatus now. We're gonna be going on a hiatus for a little bit, which is a little sad. And while Strawberry is great, they're still fighting they're still going through like I guess like the tuning exam equivalent, right? But the really cool fight just happened, which is great. We're on like chapter 35. Um, and that's about basically what I'm reading from manga. I don't know what I'm going to do in terms of like a book or anything. And we were just on games, but I'm still on chapter 6 of Wukong, and we got the Nimbus. Yo, I am so happy. I got the flying Nimbus now. The cloud that you can ride, because now you can use it at the very least. I only ever tried it in the sixth area, which is like pretty big. That's a pretty big open area, and there's like a lot of bosses. It seems I only found like 4 outside of the first one you fight. I gotta fight the big boar like thing. I think it is like the stone hippo guy, right? There's like the smaller hippos, and then if you go off to the left, you can find like the bigger hippo. So that's what I'm really trying to focus on fighting right now. But I took a little break from Wukong, and I started getting back into Persona 3 because I wanted to play ReFantazio. I hear great things about it. Like even Asmongold was raving about it when he was playing it. So I didn't watch him play it, but also kudos to Asmongold for reflecting on a past situation, which seems pretty crazy. So I hope it works out for the best for him. That is pretty wild. So yeah, Persona. I'm on floor 171. We're not very far from the end. I don't think I said we only have like one more boss to fight. I believe we're still in October, and yeah, we're basically making our way through. Um, I'd like to play Dragon Age by the time it comes out, but depending on how like it's received, I probably will just play ReFantazio instead and maybe wait on Dragon Age. Um, because I really don't know if I want to play Dragon Age because this seems like nothing's good about it. There's almost like no actual positivity that's going for it on online. And like for me, the only thing truly keeping me hooked is like the lore and the story, like how it's gonna play out. But it's definitely not the gameplay. I'm not excited to play it specifically. So really not sure. It's really odd that like a $70 RPG that's turn-based. I think it's turn-based. I haven't seen specific gameplay of ReFantazio. It just looks very similar to Persona 3, Persona 5 kind of vibes. It's Persona 3 Reload. So like I'm just basing that it is turn-based. I might have seen gameplay of it. It was like turn-based stuff. I couldn't be sure. But like I know that when I watched the Asmongold stream, I was like, oh, what is he playing? He's like, so he's gonna start playing it. Um, and I was like, I'll just see what it is. And they had this big long ass cutscene that looks anime as hell. I was like, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to see that before I, actually play the game. It's just like, no. So I turned it off like right there, like right when you see like the first bearded guy. Like as soon as you see him, I just like, nah, I'm not gonna watch him play that. And yeah, I want to play that game, but Dragon Age might be holding me back. So maybe for the podcast, we'll do one or the other, but it'll definitely happen at some point. And uh, you know, still on the spooky side, Uzumaki, the anime, you guys need to go watch it. Obviously, I really enjoyed episode 3. I didn't think the quality was, all that bad. I can't do it, so I really don't have like an opinion to say whether or not it's really crappy or not. I just don't care. And I'm worried that like the ending for the four episode show won't be proper from the manga just because like the way it ends. I really don't want to get into spoilers. Like it seems like right where episode 3 ends, there's still too much to kind of add in terms of what happens in the manga. So I'm just worried like episode 4 will just maybe cut out some stuff, and I think a lot of it's really good. I don't really want any of it to be cut out. That would be really upsetting to me. So hoping that episode 4 has at least a bit of everything from the specific chapters that it's going to have. We're up to like at chapter 13 or 14 now, I believe, for episode 3. So yeah, and Dragon Ball Daima. I just finished episode 2 before starting the podcast, like hitting record and stuff, so I could talk about it. And this show is starting to add in some wild stuff. They made some comment about there being like a third demon realm. I read it in subtitles, right? I did the subtitles version on Crunchyroll, so like they mentioned something about being a third demon realm, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know what that could mean. Maybe it's like a demon realm per like universe or something. So that might be kind of cool. But that's it's just odd. And then there's Glorios, who's the new like I guess like ally to the show. He feels very much like Granola, right? If you read the Dragon Ball Super arc Granola, it feels like he's kind of that kind of character to a degree. Who could really say? And yeah, they're adding some weird stuff to the lore, like the Kais have like spaceships, and brothers, and they're all like they know about the Namekians going like there's like a Namekian going to live in the demon world, and it's just odd to see Dragon Ball this way. I wasn't that big of a fan of the pacing. It just felt like it was a little long. Um, I don't know. It's supposed to be 20 episodes, right? The show is supposed to be 20 episodes. So, hoping there's gonna be like some really cool fights or like cooler characters showing up. We haven't seen much of characters that I liked so far. But we got 18 episodes left for Dragon Ball Daima, so we're gonna be seeing what happens. And yeah, I wish I had more articles to talk about, but we're getting like into that lull where there's not really a lot of game news coming out. There's going to be the Game Awards around the corner, and maybe we'll start like looking at like future books or stuff to talk about because, trying to fill out the episode length is relatively difficult on just doing things that I enjoy or stuff like that. I should do things that I like going into like what books are coming out or other movies. Like Joker 2 isn't doing so well, so I haven't really watched that. I also haven't watched the Borderlands movie, so I want to do that. And then there's like the Penguin show. So I don't really want this to be like the show or movie stuff, but besides books, and video games. I don't really know what else to really specifically talk about. I try to keep these episodes pretty concise, like one specific topic per thing, and it's just like, it is what it is. I've teetered on the idea of getting like political or like talking about like news, like real news articles, and it's just like that just seems like somebody talking out their ass on things that like they don't have specifically rights to talk about, and it's just like I don't really want like unless like expecting me like if I talk about like things in New Jersey, sure, like that's obviously something I could do, but it's just like I'm not really inconvenienced all that my life. I'm pretty privileged. I'm pretty lucky. I'm blessed in a lot of ways. So like even just getting to do the podcast here is a privilege in and of itself. So like I'm just just trying to do this in a way that's fun and decently entertaining, and I get to talk about things that are interesting to me, and maybe get you guys to read a book or so every once in a while, because I know some of you probably definitely could use a few more books in your life, something. And yeah, basically that's it. So, if you guys have any books or video games, things you want me to play, read, or watch for holiday season, like October or Christmas is coming around. So, like, what kind of Christmas movies or Thanksgiving movies or TV shows or fun little things you think I would enjoy? Even like books if they're like weird or decent with like holiday theme, or you just think they're fun. Just leave it in the comments. Let me know what you guys want me to get into, because I'm just trying to read as much as I can, play as many video games as I can when I can, and it's just like that's what I'm here for. So I'll see you guys next Friday.